Treasurer Ted O'Brien. You've been in all the sessions thus far. Has it been constructive, positive? How would you describe it?
Well, I think certainly everyone around the table is trying to be positive. Everyone's being very polite and very nice to each other, Kieran, as they should be. I mean, how one conducts oneself is important. But yeah, 1.5 days, it's done. Mind you, it took 3 years for the government to realise there was a problem with living standards. 3 months then to organise a 3-day meeting, and we're halfway through those 3 days. Some aspects of business as usual type things for government. The importance of ensuring we have fewer and better regulations, for instance. And I can't speak for everybody around the table, but I believe most people sort of were nodding to the importance of that. We are completely over-regulated. An additional 5,000 regulations were introduced by the Albanese government last term. So there was a lot of ideas that went to the government about, we need to reduce regulation. My point on that is, yes, we need fewer and better regulations, but the government must sign up to specific targets which are time-bound. If they don't, they're not really going to move the dial.
What sort of target?
Well, I mean, the BCA has put forward ideas of, a percentage of regulations to be reduced. Different jurisdictions do it in different ways. I think the
sort of guardrail.
Some guardrail, something against which the government can be measured.
Okay.
I mean, you don't want them just to sort of get rid of a whole bunch of redundant, regulations that's not going to move the dial in terms of productivity. So you had the regulation piece. There was a lot of discussion also this morning on housing, as there should be. And I think given...
Some progress, do you think?
Well, certainly some good ideas came to the table. And again, it sort of falls into the bucket really of business as usual, other than we know the government is failing miserably on trying to achieve its target of 1.2 million new homes.
But it's not a stitch-up. This meeting hasn't been a stitch-up. It's all signed, sealed, delivered before.
Well, stitch-up isn't the language I personally use. I'll get to a concern I've got, which is less about how orchestrated the whole thing is. Other people can talk about that. But just on housing, can I make this point? The two main areas of discussion that I heard was around the need to freeze the construction code. That was the coalition's policy anyway at the last election that Labor disagreed with. But now
you're happy they're on board?
Well, they seem to be on board. Again, devil's always in the detail, so we'll hold our fire until we see the detail. Yeah. But they've come around to the coalition's view on that. And the second issue within housing is the reform of the environmental laws, the EPBCA. And so let's wait to see what the government does with that. And then
what was the other concern you had?
Well, the main concern I've had, Kieran, is this. A lot of the discussion around skills and development, around capital allocation, around approvals, is all about doubling down, accelerating the delivery of Labor's energy plan. And that concerns me because we all know Labor's energy plan is seeing prices go up. We are seeing a record level of insolvencies, with a lot of businesses saying they're closing because they cannot afford energy. We are seeing more families now across Australia than we've ever seen in our history struggling on energy.
Would you describe it as the elephant in the room?
No, I don't think it's the elephant in the room because I made my views very clear that I think the room is trying to solve the wrong problem. The problem to solve is not how do we accelerate Labor's bad energy plan. The problem to solve is how do we get Australians the cheapest energy possible? Of course, it has to be reliable. We have to make sure we're decarbonising over time. But that question isn't being asked. And I've got a concern about that.
As a former spokesperson in that space, one of the key issues to me appears the capacity investment mechanism. And do you think gas needs to be included in that? Well, is that the key move there?
Well, again, I won't be announcing coalition policy now, Kieran, other than to say when we went to the last election only a few months ago, our policy was to include gas in the capacity investment scheme. But what I'm talking about is bigger than this, right? I'm talking about the fact that we're here for a productivity summit. It's about raising living standards. And Labor, and I have to say most of the room, seem to be doubling down on a failed energy policy, which is only making Australians poorer, our economy weaker, and we are seeing industries collapse as a result. That's not right.
On the road user charge, Matt Common told the Forum that it sounds pretty uncontroversial. Ken Henry said, road user charge, that's fantastic, let's do it. Is this inevitable that we should have a road user charge to ensure that excise, that payment, that contribution to our road and infrastructure continues in a world of more EVs? Yeah,
Kieran, when it comes to the roundtable, I won't speak for everybody. It's not being run in a way where do you agree, put your hand up, do you disagree? So it'd be difficult for anybody to say this is the outcome of the room. Right. Nevertheless, it's been raised a few times. We'll probably know more after tomorrow because this afternoon is AI. Tomorrow we deal a lot with taxation and charges. My personal instinctive view on this is if you use the road, you should pay for its upkeep.
Yep.
And right now, those who use electric vehicles do not pay for the upkeep. But if you look at the excise you pay, if you fill up your tank with petrol, it could be up to about 52 cents a litre in excise that you're contributing to the road. So it does get to a fairness issue in how that charge is collected. There's no doubt about that.
And on the, if we just circle back to finish
Sure.
where we began on the issue of regulation and that sort of thing, the red tape, the Treasurer told the room that he wants regulators to be more ambitious. They haven't been ambitious enough in terms of providing areas where red tape can be removed. Do you welcome that greater ambition from Treasurer Chalmers on that front? Has he put it to the room today?
Well, I think he wrote to the regulators a little while ago, and that's good. What we need, though, is we've seen this also with the way the Treasurer treats the RBA, right? It will say, you have your framework, your discipline, your rules, get going. Now he's doing the same with the agencies, which I agree with, but he doesn't apply the same discipline to himself. So fiscal policy has no discipline. The Cabinet on introducing new regulations had no discipline last term, which is why we have an additional 5,000 regulations, which is an additional cost impost on business and therefore the Australian people.
Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien, great to chat.
Thanks so much, Kieran.
Thanks for making the time.